Welcome to another episode of Talking Sports A to Z with Alex Busch and Drew Zlogar. This week, we're going to get into the NHL making a comeback here after the coronavirus that was announced on Tuesday. An interview with my former colleague, Kevin Prise, who works all things digital for the Korn Ferry Tour as a part of the PGA Tour. And then, we'll get into the match 2.0 that happened this past weekend. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Talking Sports A to Z. Alex Busch here alongside Drew Zlogar. How's it going?
What's going on, man? Before we get into anything, Alex, how are you doing today?
I'm just doing great. The NHL is back, so I don't think I've been this happy in a long time. We can get right back into it, but the NHL today announcing they're coming back with a 24-team playoff. Which date and locations to be TBD, but just having that is the first big sport, team sport, the first big team sport kind of to really set a plan in place and make it official, which I'm so pumped for.
Yeah, no, I mean it's incredible. Personally, I'm not a big hockey guy, but I'm a sports guy, and like you said, I think it's one of the big sports, one of the big leagues that is taking the initiative to really set a plan in place to come back. So we've seen all the gimmicky sports come back, if you will, the UFCs, the NASCAR,
even golf's about to.
Golf with the match and just kind of trickling in, and we have some majors in a couple weeks supposedly, so things are on the movements. But to see a team sport like hockey make these moves to come back, it was exciting, man. So you kind of detailed it, but to give the listeners an insight to what it was, I'll let you go to the specifics, but the top line info is that the top 24 teams will
12 in each conference specifically,
will qualify into the continued season, we'll call it. So there are teams being left out. But Alex, how about you kind of give us some insight toward what you know? So you said that the locations aren't necessarily.
Yeah, so I pulled up the exact stuff. So like kind of they're in phase 1 right now where it's, they have an idea. They're saying phase 2 in early June. It's expected the teams will permanently or be permitted to return to home facilities for small group voluntary and on and off ice training. So not full practices, but captain's practices and things like that, where a lot of coaches will not be there or be in the stands. And then phase 3, not earlier than the first half of July. Formal training camps will begin. So they're going to just pretty much start back up with training camps with guidance from medical and civil authorities. So it's all based on when they can. And then the big ones, phase 4, when they're going to be 24 teams in 2 hub cities. So it's going to be the Eastern Conference will go somewhere, Western Conference will go somewhere. And they're starting a 24-team playoff. The hub city locations could be from Chicago, Columbus, Dallas, Edmonton, Vegas, LA, Minneapolis, St. Paul, Pittsburgh, Toronto, Vancouver. I could really see Vegas and Toronto. That's a lot of people have been saying that for each side. But yeah, 2 hub cities, 24 teams. They're kind of what they did is they took the top 4 teams from each conference, and they're going to play a round robin where they play each team, and that's just for seeding while the other games go on. And then numbers 5 through 12 from each conference will play. 12 will play 5. 6 will play 11, like that. Will play a best of 5 series kind of for their entrance into the playoffs. So then you go back to the 8 team in each conference, just like normal. So, and then obviously they're saying like the Stanley Cup is TBD on where it would be, because the East and West would have to go to one location. But I'm pumped. That was a lot of information, but dude, I'm so pumped. It sucks as a Sabres fan because the Sabres are literally the first team that do not qualify, so we don't get to see them again this year. But we talk about football, basketball, golf, everything, but my blood's in hockey. I've been playing since I was a kid. So, just seeing hockey come back and playoff hockey, it's jump starting right into that. Like even people that don't love hockey talk about how much they love playoff hockey and the intensity. It's jump starting right back into that, which is going to be incredible.
Yeah, and I fall into that category of when playoff hockey is here, I'm into it, and I really it's almost every postseason hockey time when it comes, I always appreciate it every single year because every period that I watch is so fast, so balls to the wall, and these guys are giving it
Mhm.
their all. So I'm not necessarily an every night regular season hockey watcher, but I think any type of sport, like how invested I am to these golf matches, and they're just charity events. Hell,
Yeah, I know, right?
I even turned on the NASCAR event the other weekend just because it's like I'm starving for content.
For
Uh,
sports.
so it's um, if to see that the NHL is really trying to get some phases together to make it work. It's good, and the NBA is not at the level that the NHL is in terms of the formal agreements upon things. So they're still a little bit behind, but from what we know and the leaked information of what they're trying to do, it sounds comparable to that of everyone wants to be in one location. I hear Disney.
Mhm.
It's still being floated around about how many teams are actually going to be kind of restarted and into it. So the NHL is doing 24 teams. I'm hearing that the NBA might just immediately start at 16.
Well,
So
I'm also hearing that they might do a thing where they cap off at like 60. I don't know how many games they got. They got through 60 something games, cap off at 70 games and finish your season, which kind of sucks for the teams that won't even make it, but before the
well,
playoffs. But
yeah, so I had just a quick thing to wrap this up since I don't want to tie this into too much of a basketball segment here. Just your
mhm,
reactions to seeing Damian Lillard today coming out
yeah,
saying that he wouldn't play um if there was no chance for his team to make the playoffs. Like he wouldn't even dress, he wouldn't even do whatever they would the season agreements would be if their team was gonna like still have games, but there would be no chance of getting in. So I want to relate it to the teams in the NHL that are just being snubbed. So your Buffalo Sabres, it kind of hits home. They were right on the cusp of not getting in. So they were the 25th team out of 24 applicable teams. How do you think? Do you think it's a bigger deal that these leagues are going to have to be snubbing some teams that were right on the brink, or is it obviously more important that just the sport in general is back?
well, for that, I mean, you can say they got snubbed for a 2014 playoff, but normally it's a 16 team playoff and they were not even close. So I wouldn't say they got snubbed. They're giving that four team, so going from 8 to 12 per conference, given that like 4 team bubble is really smart because there's teams that could have made it at 9, 10, even 11 or 12. I got to look at the conference standings to be exact, but going down to those teams that are at like 25 to 30, it's not really snubbing. And I really think that it's better to keep them home. It sucks, but I do think that if the NBA does this, they can't do something where they're given 16 total teams and snubbing the guys that are at 9 through, 11 or 12 in their conference.
No, that's a great answer, and appreciate that
I mean, I
clarity.
agree with Damien. That's kind of where I am.
Yeah, I understanding the formats of a legitimate playoff season like you just listed. Yeah, 25 through 30, they don't deserve to even be in the
Yeah.
consideration anyway. So that shouldn't be on the table for them. So that makes sense. But yeah, man, like you said, I'm very excited. Hopefully that the phases as you listed out, there's 4 phases. Hopefully they get on a fast track of
Hmm.
happening.
Yeah, we really can't tell now.
So we could see it quicker than not, and more importantly, hopefully, the NHL coming out with this plan in place uh, kicks the other leagues in the keister a little bit of like,
Yeah,
okay,
I see a domino effect kind of happening here.
yeah, and that would be music to our ears as the weather continues to get nicer.
Hmm.
The energy in society is becoming more and more positive, optimistic. Us with our podcast here, giving you guys content, we're trying to bring some good vibes every week with our content. And it'll just get even better if we could start to talk about actual sports, man. So I'm loving it, looking forward to it. And speaking of the sports that are going on and keeping us sane so far, we have a great interview with your buddy Kevin Prise, who kind of is the holy grail of the Korn Ferry Tour, which is basically the minor league for the PGA Tour. All the guys, the grinders that are trying to get their big break. So to hear a guy that's so passionate about the blue collar athletes in that sport was admirable. And when you guys hear him speak to us today, you'll hear that he kind of has an underdog story himself. So loved that interview. And then I think Busch, if that's it on the NHL talk, I think you could kick it right to that interview.
Yeah, I just want to say, do you see this? I got goosebumps because hockey's coming back. I just want to say I have goosebumps.
I think I'm more impressed that you actually look kind of tan there, buddy.
Oh, I've been playing, 6 rounds a week. But I got goosebumps, baby.
No more pale Busch. You're actually tan. Good for you.
I mean, look at my face. It's, the hat gets you right here, but, you got a little red.
There you go, man.
That's okay. The back of my neck was literally burnt, so it's all
love
good.
It. Yeah, but without further ado, let's kick it to our interview with Kevin Prise.
All right, now we welcome on my buddy Kevin Prise, the digital content manager of the Korn Ferry Tour, the minor leagues of the PGA Tour. I met him when I worked at the PGA Tour for the past year. How's it going, bro?
Doing well, sir. Thank you much for having me on here in Jacksonville, waiting for the season to start in a couple weeks. It's crazy, 10 weeks down here in the pandemic era. And it's been, silver linings with being able to get the longest I've been at home really in one place for a long time, but spent some time up in Buffalo too. But yeah, doing well, playing some golf, excited to get play back underway in a couple weeks.
Kevin, I gotta ask before we get even into the weeds about the golf talk. So you were down there in Jacksonville with Alex. How was that living with Alex and being?
No, he didn't live with me. He just came on a tournament. But yeah,
living near him is close enough. Alex is a character, man. How did you survive that time with him?
I mean, just being a Buffalo fan, it's kind of like some home comfort. There's not too many Buffalo fans down here in Jacksonville, and having such a great year for the Bills and being able to circle the wagons and talk as we ascended kind of in the AFC ranks, you could say. Played a little golf. We played an awesome par 3 course in South Florida, which is right on the Intercoastal, the day after the Honda Classic that Alex covered. But yeah, no, it was great. Sad to lose him, but no, he's on to good things. But glad to know him for sure.
I do have to say that I have never played golf with a kid who has been late for a tee time every single time I played with him.
Yeah, it's not
or
not
1 minute before,
Well, I like to push it. There are times I roll to a group and I have to the group's walking to the fairway and I have to hit my drive, and usually less thinking is better. My first tee shot is usually pretty good. It can spiral from there. Once the negative shots come in, they kind of snowball. But no, I do bring it close to the vest. I will.
Especially when you I remember what was it, a month before I left, or maybe 2 months, whatever it was, you lost your phone on the top of Disney World, in the top of a ride on Disney World. Had to map quest your way there like it was, the 90s again.
That was a circus. So yeah, I lost it on the Tower of Terror, fell out of my pocket. I was wearing gym shorts. I was not thinking through this clearly. No excuse for that. And I lost it down the ride, and I got back to a computer and saw the green light on the phone. So I knew it was still alive in some form. It was still sending a signal. So it was not completely broken. So I had to go to guest services and try to convince them that it was all good. And eventually, a couple days later, they said they found it. So I had to drive home to get it, but I had no phone. And the highway was closed because of some accident or a fire, I think. So I had to go through the woods like the Ocala National Forest, but I was going north when I thought I should have been. I was mixed up. I should have been going south. I was going north. I thought I was below I-4. I was above I-4, so I continued to get lost in the woods. Took me like 8 hours to get from Jacksonville to Disney,
which is like a 2.5-3 hour drive.
Yeah.
Sounds absolutely miserable.
Not good. I tried to have fun with it. I listened to a lot of music, but like I couldn't even listen. I mean, I didn't have my phone, so I was just like listening. I'm lucky I have satellite radio, so I was able to listen to that. But other than that, it was pretty limited. My dad actually sent me an atlas after I told
Oh
him.
my God.
He literally sent me an old Florida atlas, like
Bringing
with
it back.
Oh, I
150
love it.
pages and stuff by the grid. But yeah, always an adventure. You know, Alex, you've just known me for a year. You probably get that sense already. I'm just a little off.
It's always like a controlled mess, I'd say. You know, you got it under control, but it's not the way things are supposed to be. Whether it's
all
travel
a little
or
circular.
work, you know, anything. But no, Kev, I gotta bring you back. You know, we've talked about this. You know how you started the tour when you wrote your what were you saying in Syracuse? You wrote your essay on the Korn Ferry tour. Ended
It
up
was amazing.
being that guy there eventually. You know, talk about that.
It's just been such a journey. I always pinch myself. So like I was little, I'll try to be pretty concise. You know, I can talk in circles, but
Oh yeah,
we're circles.
circle.
But no, I mean, when I was little, I was a huge golf fan. Fred Funk was my favorite player. I would follow these kind of quote unquote obscure players, you know, the journeymen, the grinders, like Omar Uresti, Jeff Breho, Bob Hines.
Omar.
There wouldn't be a
Uresti.
Omar Uresti. And so like a lot of them fell back to the Korn Ferry tour, which was on the nationwide tour. So I kind of found myself following that tour and wanting to learn about those players, but there wasn't really anyone covering it nationally full time. So I was kind of inspired just, you know, going to school for journalism and being a golf fan, wanting to kind of help change that. So I did my senior college project. The challenge for the honors project in journalism was to cover something that had not been covered in depth. And I was like, that's perfect, the nationwide tour. So I hit the road. I went to 5 tournaments. Cuse was great. They gave me a little money to travel.
Shout
And
out.
I tried to stretch it as far as I could. You know, I made 2,000 last 5 tournaments. So had to sleep, you know, slept in my car a few times. My brother and his friend came with me to one tournament. This is just a quick tale. We were on the way in between Wichita and Evansville, Indiana. And I was like, well, we can either stay in the car and go to this amusement park the next day, Worlds of Fun in Kansas City, or we can get a hotel. And they said, let's stay in the car. It was like 85 degrees at night.
3 of you?
Yeah, 3 of us. One in the front, one in the back.
Wow.
And my brother's
Sheesh.
friend slept on the top of the car. And we found like a laundromat like in the like
That's
campground
incredible.
adjacent to the parking lot. Yeah, so that's kind of how it started, 2012. And then I met people with the tour and freelance for Golf World magazine, had kind of a permanent job there until the print magazine folded in 2014. Then I was lucky enough to get a gig covering 5 tournaments. It's kind of like a trial at the end of the 2014 season with the Korn Ferry Tour, which was then the Web.com Tour. So from the nationwide to the Web.com Tour.
Crazy.
And I did 5, drove to all 5. I drove right from Connecticut, where I was living with Golf World, to Knoxville for my first stop. And I asked, at the gate, they thought I was like an exhibitor, like trying to set up a stand and sell something, because I had all my stuff in my car, because I was literally moving from Connecticut back to Buffalo and diverted to Knoxville. So like they didn't want to let me in the media lot. But yeah, just different stuff like that. And then in spring 2016, I ultimately got hired full-time. They created a position for this tour and also for the PGA Tour Champions, the senior tour, to kind of have someone oversee the content for each tour. And I was lucky enough to do that. So yeah, kind of overseeing all things digital, all things that kind of touch the fans, whether it's the website and stories, whether it's video and graphics. I am not a graphic designer. I'm super lucky. We have a new hire who kills it and is awesome and helps make me look good for sure. But it's a ton of, just managing all, whether it's the video content, the writing, the coverage, the features. It's just a journey. It's fun getting to meet all the players and meet all the staff and the tournament teams and travel. I kind of feel like I've been on just kind of this, 8-year
I don't
flurry.
think you ever stopped traveling till coronavirus.
It was the silver lining. I always talk about the silver linings, making the best of everything. And that was definitely a silver lining, was being able to be in one place. And I took advantage, and I went home to Buffalo for a month and hung out with my parents and brothers, which, probably the longest I'll ever really be able to do that ever, just for a full month. And that was awesome. And then I've been here for a few weeks since, drove up there, drove back down, had the checkpoint
Crazy.
at the Florida border on the way back. But yeah,
Crazy.
now back here in Jackson, it was, 2 weeks from our tournament our season resuming here in Jack. So our first 2, I won't even have to travel. I'll be able to stay home again. So, yeah, I mean, I love golf. I love storytelling, really. You know, I love getting to know the players and what makes them tick and what makes them interesting and helping chronicle their journey. So that being on the Korn Ferry Tour is definitely a great fit. And I still love it just as much as I did in 2012, just driving from Buffalo to Wichita. So the energy renews itself with the different stories every year, for sure.
That's awesome. Kevin, it's a really cool story. The grinding that you had to go through kind of, I guess, attributes to the athletes that you're working with now at the Korn Ferry Tour. Do you sense a kind of a less jaded sense about these players? I know my time working at the NBA, a lot of the players that I was trying to interact when I covered an NBA game, they would be less inclined to speak with me. But then when I went to cover a G League game, those guys are starving for the attention, and they were so much more friendly and willing to do the media asks, and overall just more kind of welcoming people. Do you have that kind of like blue collar sense? Does that come about when you're interacting with these athletes on that tour?
It's totally 100%. It's totally a part of why I love it. I mean, you get to walk up to the range and just kind of say hi and how everyone's doing, and the players and the caddies and the reps, they'll see you and come, you know, just talk small talk about, you know, how was your trip there, what's going on about your teams, about the sports going on, about the area, and then that gets into other conversation, and you can naturally learn a lot of things. And it's a great way to do reporting, is just hang out on the range on the practice days, hang out in the short game areas. And because of the accessibility on the Korn Ferry Tour, whereas, you know, at the higher level, there might be more agents and managers in the way and stuff. Not in the way, but it's just their job is to be there and shield and manage requests. And the guys on the Korn Ferry Tour, it's not like you get to the PGA Tour and you become like, you know, who you are as a person changes, but you just have more stuff to do. You have more boxes to check. You have more sponsors. I mean, sponsors are paying you more, so they're asking you to do more things. There's more media. There's more reporters with asks. There's just more people covering it. Everything's on a bigger scale. The whole, I guess, more money, more problems type of thing, as they say. So at the Korn Ferry Tour, it's the perfect level where there's guys that are like one step away from the PGA Tour, pretty much have the talent, just haven't had the opportunity yet for the most part. And you combine that with the great access and, like you said, with the players wanting, you know, seeing the value and being covered and doing media, participating in. And I ask guys to do a lot of zany stuff. You know, we've played hot potato with guys. We've had guys like play a hole with a hockey stick around. We've had guys do a Seinfeld scene recreation in a
which was legendary.
Yeah, that was something. Harry Higgs and Latzo Griffin, they were great. But yeah, it's just that combination of the access and how good they are really makes it super appealing. But you hit the nail on the head. Like I can learn more in an hour at the range than on the Korn Ferry Tour than I probably could like a whole week on site at a PGA Tour event, in terms of like unique information that I'm learning that isn't already out there. And I value that tremendously.
Just going off that, you know, you mentioned the guys don't necessarily change as a person, you know, when they make it to the tour. I know, like, just going on site at a tour event with you, you seem like the president, because all these guys that are Korn Ferry alum, they're like, oh, KP, you know, so like, you know, you built this brand of yourself, you know, while working for, you know, the tour and the Korn Ferry Tour, and you know, being digital behind that, you know, brand, but also you've been able to kind of connect with the guys, you know, that come through the Korn Ferry Tour. I guess, you know, what would you say, you know, is your best part about that, besides hitting on 17 in front of everyone at Sawgrass?
That was great. I was sweating my palms. I was super lucky. The tournament, the president of the tour at the time, Dan Glad, was great. They gave me a special achievement award that year just from my work, and I was so appreciated. And part of the prize, they gave me a golf bag with the Quest to Break 80 stitched on it, which I shot at 80.
He's still going.
It's trending. The Quest to Break 80, as you know, people say when they're starting to shoot some under par rounds and good finishes, the game is trending. My game is trending. But no, I was sweating. I got to hit with Chess and Hadley on 17. the 1 year, and then with Keith Mitchell the next year. I mean, just so appreciative for that opportunity. And I love the whole acknowledging the crowd shtick. You know, when I was little watching golf on TV, I would be bummed.
You do that when we play in front of nobody. So.
I do. I acknowledge
literally
when I'm playing by myself.
A 5-foot bogey putt.
Yeah, you got to wave to the crowd. You got to salute to that. The fans need you to know that you are there. So I'll give players crap for not acknowledging the crowd and stuff. But when I was on 17 and being able to acknowledge the crowd, it was really cool. I mean, I think it's just, developing the relationships with them, building that trust, and knowing, like, if they have a cool story that happens, they'll come to me, or like they'll be more open to me in the interview. I mean, the best part is probably that. The whole fuel for the whole thing is telling the best stories and telling their stories and helping kind of be the connector between the fans and the players. And that's definitely the best part. I mean, I've been incredibly lucky. I got to go to the Iron Bowl with Tom Lovelady a couple years ago. I got to go to a bachelor party for Steven Yeager got in Vegas, which we went to a concert, Tiesto at Hakkasan. And that stuff, it's great. And I love it. And I'm super, like, I pinch myself when you ask the question and I take the trip down memory lane and I circle through my mind. I'm like, I am not worthy of this. Like, I'm just a kid reporting on golf. Like, that's all I wanted to do. That's all I want to do. And at the end of the day, like, that is the best part. The best feeling is telling the great stories, like being in the parking lot in Louisiana. And I see this guy, Dan Mazziota, who had played a couple of years before. I hadn't seen him in a couple of years. We start talking. He's saying he drove to the Monday qualifier and he was camping out and he's living out of his car and he has all his camp stuff in there. And I'm like, what the heck? And we did a whole video on it. And it's just stumbling into someone in the parking lot who I had known from just a couple of years before, who was comfortable enough to just kind of let me know what he had been up to. And then we do the video, and then he goes on to have a top 10, and it's one of his best weeks ever. And then some of the other stuff, just like a player will be down to sit with you for an hour, whether it's a podcast or a written feature, or like Lonzo Griffin a couple years ago, we sat down with him and when he got his first tour card and opening up about losing his dad at a young age and being down to his last few dollars and just telling the stories and getting emotional that leads to a great video piece. Or Harry Higgs being comfortable enough to sit there and scroll through his phone and tell stories from childhood and look at old goofy photos that his mom sent, and building that trust over time and allowing that to cultivate, and as well as being able to ask guys to go do those scene recreations, and whether it's on the reporting side. Or I always say, like, the goal is zany is always the word I use for the offbeat content, but for a good blend of reporting and zaniness is always the goal. But at the end of the day, that's the stuff that fills you, is the telling the great stories, doing stuff that resonates, people coming up to you saying that was a great piece that you did. That's the stuff that keeps you going for sure and makes all the hours and everything worth it.
The one that you actually didn't bring up that actually I just remembered was when JT was asked about the favorite memories on the Korn Ferry Tour and by you, and he acknowledged you. It was you, Kevin.
Oh my God. Wow. That was that Honda. Yeah, a little over a year ago, the Honda in 2019. And then, trying to get a quote for a story or a video or whatever, just getting ready for just whenever I get a chance in a press conference to ask a big name player, I like to get good sound bites. I did that with Tiger, even though Tiger never played the KFT at the Players a couple years ago, gave a great answer. I was shaking as I asked the question. But yeah, with JT, I was like, oh my gosh. Like, I realized, like, he gives a grin and he starts talking, and I wasn't even sure if he would have remembered me. Like, I hadn't really seen him in a few years, and the fact that he did and would give me that shout out. And then I'm hoping, I'm like, please answer my question. Please answer my question. I still want to get the soundbite. And then he did.
That's the soundbite.
No.
I know.
And then he
For
did.
the love of the content.
For the love of the content. The price tracker. Yep. The price tracker did use that clip ultimately. But no, I mean, I'm so lucky to be able to do it. Like I said, I'm just a kid covering golf. And I mean, my goal when I was little was to be one of the best golf writers ever. And the industry has changed from, straight up writing to trying to do everything. And I definitely still try to do features and take the time to do those when I can, but it's about kind of the whole content stratosphere, I guess you could say. And I mean, who knows what it'll be in 10, 15, 20 years.
Yeah,
like,
you really don't know.
likely be platforms we've never heard of yet. But it's like one of my professors at Syracuse told me, like, content is not in danger. The vehicle might change, the platform might change, but content itself, humans want to connect, and storytelling is a great way to connect.
Kevin, that's awesome, man. And I think it's admirable to just see the stories. I know when I'm watching the tour, and frankly, it doesn't even have to be PGA events or golf in general, any type of sport, when you hear about kind of the come up stories and seeing these athletes get their big break. Talk to us about how many players that are in the Korn Ferry Tour. You guys are describing it as kind of like the NBA G League compared to the NBA. It's that minor league level to the big stage. How many of those golfers who are still some of the best in the entire world, what's the percentage that get brought up to the big leagues? How often does it happen? And is it almost like once in a blue moon? Talk to us about that process for the golfers that you're dealing with.
So every year, the top 25 on the regular season points list, it was money list, now it's points list. Top 25 get their cards, so it's a full just merit-based system. Every tournament is worth the same amount of points. The prize money might differ, but they're all worth the same until the final event of the year. So it's usually a mix of young up-and-coming guys and then returners, because each year for those 25 that come up, people will lose their card. People will be on the PGA Tour and fall off. And then there's a 3-event series at the end of the year called the Korn Ferry Tour Finals, which includes numbers 26 through 75 on the Korn Ferry Tour list. So the guys who play well but just miss it. And then 126 to 200 on the PGA Tour list, the FedEx Cup standings. So out of that, there's another 25 cards. So it's a mix of basically guys on the way down, on the way up, fighting each other for the chance to get back up there. So it's very volatile. There's definitely a few hundred people that have the talent, if not more, to play on the PGA Tour, but it's a matter of opportunity. For the most part, the people on the Korn Ferry Tour are good enough to play, if not win, on the PGA Tour. And then obviously the European Tour has a ton of guys who are capable too. Sometimes they'll come over for Q school and try to get on the Korn Ferry Tour to play, but it's very interchangeable. It's a churn. They always call it the churn. There's more churn than ever because you get on the PGA Tour and then you have to play well just to stay there. And if you don't, you fall back down and you have to play well enough again against guys who are young and up and coming and just as hungry. So it keeps it very fresh, and everyone has such an energy on the Korn Ferry Tour because you're playing for something. You're playing to get back to the PGA Tour, where it's kind of 10 times the money, 10 times the stage. Everything's bigger just in general. So that always keeps it fresh. And then if you win 3 times in a year, you get an automatic promotion. This year with the pandemic, there will not be a graduating class. So it'll be a combined season with next year because we had so many events that had to get, pushed back. Right. But does that answer your question? It's a weird qualifying criteria. There's a lot of different nuances.
Yeah, no, it answered it perfectly, and just goes to show with your answer how grinding of a system it is. People have to grind tooth and nail to get their shot. All of them are good enough to be there, but one bad round can totally screw them up. So it's crazy to hear from the mouth of the expert.
No, I mean, it's kind of like in a lot of ways college, in college journalism and media, there's pretty much everyone is qualified to work in the professional world, but there's only X amount of jobs, and you have to figure out how to differentiate yourself with, internships and projects and networking and things. And that was why I was part of why it was perfect to do that project. It allowed me to kind of differentiate myself apart from just being a journalism major in college. It was no, I love golf. I want to work in golf. I wrote this 120-page book just for free because it's such a fine line. I'm not particularly more qualified. I'm not necessarily a better writer or a better social media manager. It's, a lot of it is timing and a little luck for sure. And kind of being able to think a few steps ahead, I guess. Right. And that's kind of like in golf. They're all good enough to play on the PGA Tour. It's at the end of the day, when you're on those final 3 holes, you need to make a couple birdies to get in the top 5 or the top 10 or win. Who's going to come up with the shot at the right time? Who's going to be ready? Who's going to be prepared to know how to hit that shot? And every year it comes down to, it seems like there's someone with that do or die putt right at the very end. This past year was Doug Gim, University of Texas alum. And
I remember that.
It's just amazing, the fine line, a whole year of play in all these different cities, and it comes down to the final putts.
So Kev, things are starting to roll back with golf. Tour starting. You're going to be traveling again. How excited are you to get back on the grind? After being kind of sitting here for a few months.
I've definitely been getting antsy. It was the perfect blend. I probably needed it. It was good. My mind can spin and get frazzled, and I can stress out about stuff. So it was good to kind of unplug, not have the daily week-to-week tournament cadence, because every tournament week you have all the preview files, you have the daily wrap stuff. Like, it's just X part of the job that is just to sustain. So it can definitely, when there's a ton of tournaments in a row, wear you out. I'm mini yawn just thinking about that and all the grind. But so it was definitely good to take this unplug. Definitely ready to be back at it. The first two are in Florida, so we'll just be driving a half hour or less. And then the first one I'm slated to go to. Obviously, anything can change, as we say, fluid and dynamic situation and how things will happen. But slated to go to our event in Colorado in like 5-6 weeks, which will be awesome, in Denver. And super looking forward to that. I mean, it's going to be different, though, without fans. The fans are such a part of sports and golf. The Korn Ferry Tour doesn't get the biggest fan base per se, but still like 1 or 2 holes. They have cool hospitality areas, 17, 18 or whatnot. And it's packed and people are around and people are cheering on the first tee and you have the energy. And like I was thinking, the final round of the Colorado event is going to be on the 4th of July. And it's going to be interesting to have that vibe, normally a festive athletic festival type of vibe. Because I always say a golf tournament in a way is kind of like a festival. Like, it's a big ground. You can check out your different hole. You have a lot of different groups. Like, you can really customize your experience of where to go.
Or is it saying Happy Gilmore, a rock concert?
Right, exactly.
What is a rock concert?
It can get rowdy out there. It can get rowdy,
Yeah.
which the players appreciate. They love playing in front of the crowds. I mean, 16 at Phoenix is crazy. But so it's going to be different without that. But it will still be fun. It'll still be cool. I mean, the players are still playing for the PGA Tour. There's still plenty on the line. It's going to be interesting, though, because a win does not necessarily mean as much because there's going to be, 40 or so events this season in the combined season.
You got to keep it going.
It'll take more. So we won't really be awarding too many tour cards this year. So it'll be interesting. It'll be a cadence. I've been doing this for a few years, so you get into a cadence, and this will be kind of a different one. But I think all the players, like, just in general, the appreciation for being out there, the appreciation for traveling, the appreciation for having the opportunity to play a game for a living. I feel like this break has really, like, kind of that it's resonated in people just being at home, and you get to think about your life and your journey here and what you're doing and your goals. So I think getting back out there, it'll be fresh. And I think in a lot of ways, Unplugged will have a lot of collective good on a lot of levels, including in my very small realm of covering the Korn Ferry Tour. But in seeing how that happens, I'm excited just to talk with everyone about how they've been spending their time, talk about what they're most looking forward to, talk about the new lease on life. I kind of like hitting the collective reset button. So as you can tell, I am pumped.
Yeah, I mean, Drew, unless you have any other questions kind of on that, I need to ask Kevin about the Bills real quick.
You can ask away.
Okay. So Kev, what's your record this year, and will I see you at the Super Bowl?
Well, all right. So the Super Bowl.
That was obviously the second part was a joke.
I can't be getting too carried away.
Second part was a joke, but I'll see you there.
Josh Allen, I love him. I love his competitiveness. I love his fight. He's the perfect Buffalo QB. Is he currently a Super Bowl level quarterback? I just can't say that. And I don't think
he doesn't need to be.
You what?
He doesn't need to be with that defense. You know that.
Oh, 2000 Ravens ethos? I mean, he's better than Trent Dilfer was. No, I love Trent Dilfer as an analyst, but
I think even Peyton Manning's last Super Bowl, he wasn't that great. Defense carried them.
Is better than that. No, our defense is going to be amazing. I mean, we were probably top 3 in the league last year, if not statistic-wise, just in reality, and keeping us in every single game. And they added people. They added pass rushers. It's going to be like defense. There's no reason to believe the defense will not be better, right? We didn't really lose anyone of too much significance on defense. And then on offense,
a couple of guys on the line, but yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's true. Yeah. Jordan Phillips, right?
And Shaq Lawson.
So, but we replaced them, and seems like it, at the very least replaced. And I mean, the secondary, I think, could be the
incredible,
best.
yeah.
I mean, Trey White is so sick. He's an all-pro. The safety tandem is a top, 3 safety tandem in the league, you got to think.
I'd like to say. I'd be safe saying top 5. I mean,
Top
that's
5.
that's a really good safety tandem, and they got them for years now once they sign Hyde next year. So,
and they're just going to keep getting better. And, I mean, that second cornerbacks, I mean, if Josh Norman can –
well, we don't know who the hell Josh Norman's going to be this year.
We don't know who he's
so
going to be.
See.
I mean, if he becomes Pro Bowl Josh Norman again, like that's
I don't know
probably
about
the
that,
best.
though.
But if he does, that's probably the best.
If he does, that's incredible. But I don't see it. But I hope so.
And then the receiving core is good. I mean, Diggs is huge. The O-line is pretty good, right?
I mean, they didn't really need to do much to that after the overhaul of the line last year. You know, there's a couple pieces that question me, but if they can stay healthy, I'm completely fine with that O-line.
I got to jump just because this is making me nauseous. I can't stand Bills talk. And
who's your team?
He's a Jets fan.
I'm a Jets fan, so let's get down to brass tacks, Kevin. I think Alex asks what record you're thinking for the Bills.
Well, this is my MO. I take a question and then a half hour later,
this is Kev. I'm just letting him talk.
And we love it, but after a while, Bills talk, I'm getting a queasy feeling in my stomach.
I mean, it's tough having
give me the over excited prediction on the Bills record for this season.
No, I'm not going to go as far as Alex. I'll say 10-6 because we have a really tough schedule. But I think the division. I think 10-6 will win the division. I think the Jets will be improved. I think Jets, Pats will be around 8-8, maybe squeak to 9-7. But I do think the Bills will have enough of those close wins and those defensive battle games against steal a couple more against the likes of, you know, the Chargers and the Rams and the maybe the Seahawks, those type of games to kind of get the edge. And I think the Bills D will kind of push them over the top in ways that the Jets and Pats might not be able to. So, I mean, and also that we're due. We haven't won the division in what?
Since
93? Since Jim Kelly. Yeah, we didn't even win the division with Flutie. So just by the law of averages, we're due to have a home playoff game. We haven't had one since 96. We haven't had a home playoff game since Jim Kelly was quarterback.
Yeah, and
he's been in the Hall of Fame for years. Like, come on. So I think just by the law of averages and by having such a good D, and yes, a tough schedule, but I think the tough schedule in the division race favors the Bills because I think we're best equipped to knock off a couple of those teams. And like we have the capability to beat a team like the Chiefs. Not saying we will, but in ways that I don't think the rest of the division really can. That's my at this point. That's my take right now. I think it'll be a competitive division. I think everyone will be pretty close. I think the Dolphins will be better. I think they can. Like I'm not saying we're going to sweep the Jets in Miami, like at all.
I mean, they are. I mean, do you really think they're going to lose to the Jets or Miami this year? Be honest. Come on.
I mean, we almost lost to the Jets last year. Yeah, we had to smoke and mirrors our way.
Throw it on it right now.
Throw it on it right now. I'll throw a unit. That's a lit bet for me.
Okay.
That was quite the game. But I mean, I'm as excited as I've been. I'm just hoping there will be fans. I'm hoping if we have a home playoff game, it would kind of be bittersweet to have a home playoff game with no fans. You know?
That would be so classic.
That would be very classic.
Kevin, man, really appreciate you coming on the pod. It's an awesome story that you have personally, your grind to get to where you are now, and the fact that you bring the excitement and the energy to a league that frankly doesn't get the attention that it deserves is they're very fortunate to have you and continue producing great content and bringing the energy like you always do because those guys deserve it all. Thanks for coming on, man.
Thank you, sir. No, I really appreciate the words. It's an honor to do it. I feel so lucky to be able to do it and to be able to talk to you guys and just want to have me on the podcast. It's awesome, man.
I appreciate it, kid.
Keep doing what you're doing. Keep rolling. Keep growing it. I love it. I'm on board. I feel like in the early stages. This is what, episode 7?
Yeah, it'll be 7. It'll be 7. Yep.
So we're right there.
You're gonna become a regular. You're gonna be our Korn Ferry tour plug as the podcast.
Hey, always more than happy to join, guys. I appreciate it.
And I
Go
hope
Bills.
you break 80 soon.
Full circle. If I can break 80, I need to get it going because I want to break 80 before the Bills win a playoff game. I'll obviously take either.
Ooh, you got a few months. You got to hurry up.
I got to hurry up. I have like 8
All
months. So we'll get there, kid. We'll get there.
All right, bro. It was great having you on. Thanks.
Thanks,
guys.
man.
Welcome back, guys. I hope you guys loved the interview with Kevin Prise. Drew, what are your takeaways from that one? And he's just a beauty in my opinion. So
Yeah, no, I mean, you could listen to that kid for days. That was the first time I've ever even laid eyes on him, heard him speak, and to hear the in-depth stories that he has about these players and frankly the whole tour itself that doesn't get shine. It was admirable, man. Like it's easy to root for the underdog, and you have example number one of someone who gets to cover the underdog, and hearing that himself, writing for the blogs part-time, for a project. He was going in his car, camping out in his car, sometimes with his
sleeping in his car,
sometimes with his brother and friends. It's like that. You love listening to those stories. And I think everyone in the sports and entertainment industry, that are looking for their break, or even the ones that have gotten their break in some way or another, can relate to that level of you got to grind to get to where you want to be. And maybe not everyone is sleeping out of their cars from times, but in a way, everyone can relate to the grind. So it was awesome to hear about the whole tour itself, and really cool to talk to Kevin. But Busch, there was actual golf on TV over the weekend, the match 2.0. So we had Tiger Woods, number one in the world, number one U.S. golfer, was matched up with the number 2 all-time quarterback in Peyton Manning. And then on the other side, the second U.S. golfer of Phil Mickelson with the GOAT. We can probably agree with that, with Tom Brady. So 4 of those guys.
4 goats.
Yeah, 4 goats
in their own right.
For sure. And it was awesome, man. About a 4+ hour event on a medley of networks I watched on TNT.
Mm-hmm.
But it was good, man. Pouring at one point. Then it was
the weather was horrible.
Almost looks like some sun was going to peek through the clouds. And then it started to rain again. Like, the weather was crazy. Tom Brady was pretty. Peyton Manning was great. Tiger was zoned in, and you saw how competitive he was taking even this charity event. So
and don't forget about sideline reporter JT.
Yeah, man. So
he was awesome.
What were your thoughts about the whole thing? Because I really enjoyed it.
Yeah. So funny story. I was out golfing with my dad on Sunday. We teed off at like, I don't even remember, but all I remember is that we were going down 18. I'm like, oh shit, I'm gonna miss the beginning, and it's delayed because of rain. Like, you see, oh my god, like, it's horrible weather. These guys are on the range in the downpour, and by the time I got back, they were in the fairway in the first hole, so it was good to not really miss anything. But it was great. I mean, it went as expected. Honestly, even better. After last year, like, I think the Tiger versus Phil part 1 was a little bit of a letdown because it wasn't as electric as you would have thought. That the smack talking was okay, but it wasn't terrific. But this was a whole different animal between Peyton, Tom, Tiger, and Phil. There was so much shit talking, and it was funny. There were some where you're like, okay, this is stupid, but there were some good jokes. I loved when they're on the range and Peyton's like, yeah, Gronk will do anything. He could caddy for him. I should have brought Eli or even Nick Foles. And Tom's like, that's a cheap shot. It was great. Yeah. But I mean, I picked Tiger and Peyton. You should have listened to me. That's all I got to say. It came down to the last hole though. But it was great to see the guys at it. Peyton looks in full retirement mode right now. He's striping it. Tiger is going to win 3 out of 4 majors at least right now. He's striping it. Tiger might go for Tiger Slam Part 2 this year. But no, I mean, the thing that I need to bring up because it pissed the hell out of me. I tweeted about this. Dude, okay, so Tom Brady is out there. He's like an 8 handicap, which I'm also an 8, so I relate to his game pretty well. And he people are just roasting him, acting like, how's this guy an 8 handicap, etc. But like for just so I don't go on a crazy tangent, these guys are on national TV for one of their first times in golf. I don't care if you're a Super Bowl champion; it's a whole different monster. You've seen Charles Barkley when he has to hit in front of someone, but basically, people are roasting Tom Brady, and then not in Tom fashion, just dunks a birdie on a par 5. That he dunks it from like 150 out. Yeah. Just like the biggest FU, most Tom Brady thing ever. But I think that like the people that are like casual golf fans, like watch it, have fun, love it, but don't get into the talk about handicaps when you really don't understand it, because I think a lot of people are doing that, and a lot of people I saw that like, I don't see talking about golf a lot. We're trying to talk about Tom Brady's handicap when they don't realize Tom Brady at an 8 handicap probably shoots around mid-80s at Medalist because it's such a tough course. And, you add in the TV, then the match atmosphere, the terrible conditions, everything. Like, that's my short rant. I tweeted about it, so I'm done. I'm done with it. But your boy made some coin, and okay. I really think that, you got to listen to me, because I hit everyone except for one bet, and the one bet was kind of one that I really probably shouldn't have bet. I thought had an all right chance at it, but the club twirls was over by hole 6, I think it was, the over. That was easy. He club twirled on the first tee, and I'm like, I should have put 1,000 on this. Yeah. And I think the Peyton commercials was over by the front 9. There was I saw at least 2 or 3 by hole 10, and the match was easy. It was, I think I just hit about 50 points and rambled for about way too long. But, I know we were texting during it. What did you think of the whole thing as a whole? Especially, I doubt you've seen, Tom or Peyton play golf before. I've only seen him a couple times.
Yeah, no. In general, yeah, I agree with all of what you were saying. It was awesome to watch it. I thought it brought like a unique flair, and to be honest, having these guys mic'd up, I like watching golf. Like I love watching weekend golf. Nothing better when it's summertime and the Masters is on, and watching all these tournaments. Love those Sunday afternoons of golf being on. But for the more casual fan, I really think that the production that went into this weekend's event was just perfectly done, man. Like, whoever knew that Justin Thomas was so funny? Frankly,
dude, when he called Charles Barkley a fat ass, I freaking fell off my chair.
Justin Thomas was so funny. I thought Phil Mickelson talked his ass off, but in a good way. Like, Phil Mickelson, whenever he decides to retire, he might transition to the seniors tour and win another 30 majors there. But but if he wants to call it quits, he has a career in broadcasting. The dude is hilarious.
For sure.
And when Justin Thomas would go over to him and say, like, okay, before you hit this little chip onto the green, Phil, like, what are you seeing? And the fact that he would go like, okay, well, right now I'm seeing that since it's wet, the greens are slow, first of all. Then he was like, all right, if you look over there on the ridge, it's a little more like dark green, so I know it's going to be quicker, whatever. Now I'm paraphrasing, but he was going in depth in his explanation, and then he chipped it and literally did exactly what he said. And it just brought me to think, like, damn, I don't know if they were able to bring this into real golf in some way. I get it. You're not going to be able to have Tiger Woods mic'd up on the back 9 of Augusta on Sunday. But
imagine.
But maybe it's by Sunday you have one of the golfers that is more well known that didn't make the cut. Maybe he becomes kind of like the on-field or on pitch reporter and following along. It just brought a sense of calmness, and in a way, golf, we love it and we love to watch it because we play it, And when a professional hits it into the water and they get a hazard, and or they hit it out of bounds, it's like we can relate to that. And with the microphones this weekend, I think it brought even more of a damn. I love this, man. Hearing Tom in those first holes, I know you don't want to have people shit
No,
on
he was bad in the first holes. I won't disagree.
Terrible.
With that.
And to kind of see how fuming he was, and
well, the best part was he had to try to oh, I'm on TV, let's be smart. But
right, but
yeah.
even that,
but it was so relatable.
It was so relatable.
Seeing him chunk that or duff that drive, I was like, been there before.
Yeah, and you brought up the chirping that Peyton was doing, but in a way, yeah, there was chirping going on, but like the mutual respect of all four.
Oh, it was all in good fun.
It was so powerful, and like those guys are so important to sports and to their individual sports. That's why they got picked for this event. So all in all, man, it was an exceptional time.
I think, yeah, I totally agree with everything you said. I think that like the fact that like you touched on this at the end, but this entire event made you realize like it was so relatable. Like I even talked about last week, like guys, the guys playing in shorts. Now they're on carts, incredible carts, by the way. Those custom carts were dope. Oh my God. So Tigers was so badass. It's unreal.
Bro, if I have one goal in life is I need to own a cart for like just my house. It's just like, yo, like,
yeah, like one of the old guys in Florida that has their cart and they drive it to the course from their condo. Like
it's like, dude, I like beers with the boys in the neighborhood. Like, all right, honey, like I'm going, and I just cart there. Like, fuck yeah, that would be so sick.
But yeah, no, I mean it was relatable. Like seeing the amateurs between Peyton and Tom kind of relate to bad shots. And I think that you talked about when Phil was talking and the guys were talking about their shots. The best part was seeing the amateurs line up putts or chips and have Tiger and Phil kind of like guiding them on what the best play is.
Yeah,
and that was a lot of what Phil did. And I think that like every time Phil would be like, the ridge goes to the right, it's darker there, so it's going to be a little bit slower because it's wet. You want to hit it there, you want to skip it there, so it goes over the ridge and to the right. Just stupid, little things like that. And Tom would be like, yeah, okay. Like seeing him being coached that when Phil bombed the green and the back nine and hit the par 4 green in one, or I think they were actually just right off on the fringe, but when Tom made that eagle putt after their whole going over what to do, and the reaction there as a team was pretty dope. So yeah, I mean, dude, we got to do this every year. I want to continue to do this in the future.
I mean, so I agree. I hope that, like I said, I don't know the logistics of actually incorporating microphones to a professional event.
I don't see it ever happening on tour. I just remember when when I was working there, a lot of that stuff, it was hard enough to get guys to get mic'd up, during practice rounds. So, I don't think it could happen. Maybe the thing that I think about is like a lot of teams do it in the all-star games. If the tour were to have something that's like an all-star, it would be so tough in golf. But if you had something where it was like your top guys doesn't mean as much, you're screwing around, that's something that would be dope for it. So,
yeah.
But yeah.
For the Augusta weekend when they
maybe Augusta par 3. Yeah, I mean, Masters is a whole nother animal though. I just just between Augusta, the Masters, it's just so traditional and it's really hard to get access. I don't see that ever happening, but that would be sick.
Yeah, no, I mean it was awesome, and then to see the amount of money that was raised for COVID relief, like you saw the magnitude of how many people were watching, and I think it was like 5.8 million viewers, and the most ever for a golf outing, like ever is 6.3 million. So like heads are watching this, man. And we talked about
especially with no sports.
Yeah, no. And we talked about earlier on the pod before Kevin came on with us, just how starved we are for content. And it's like, if we're all watching freaking Peyton Manning and Phil Mickelson and Tiger Woods, just like bullshit events, like imagine how real sports are going to be when they start to come back. The world might explode. It's going to be
just wait till you got a NBA Finals, Stanley Cup Finals. You got a I don't know month-wise what would work out, but maybe you got like the U.S. Open or,
Right.
all these at the same time. It's going to be like, what do I do?
What is happening?
There's
And
so much going on.
even
It's like
more.
March Madness.
Yeah, it's going to be incredible.
August Madness.
But yeah, I agree, man. It's like we're going to be like through the roof, and with how the proposals are being rumored for these sports leagues like the NBA, it sounds like it's going to be just the top 16 teams, not really conferences involved, is what a report that I read today. So like, for instance, the Raptors would play the Grizzlies, I think I saw.
Yeah, you just take away, because they're all in one area. You don't really need conferences.
and like the Celtics could play the Clippers in the second round of the freaking playoffs. Like,
that'd be so weird.
This would be absolute madness, and it's something that we need, man. So 2 weekends in a row that golf is kicking it out of the park, and it was awesome, man. Loved watching it.
Yeah, no, I agree. I love it. And, the PGA Tour comes, I think the date's June 11th. They come back. The first major's July, maybe? I don't know, but I got to look. I forget. There's just so many dates, different dates. But, yeah, I mean, I'm excited to watch tour events, coming up soon. And, God, Tiger looks so great. His swing looks incredible. His back looks perfectly fine and fused. He looks – he was piping it, striping his irons.
Yeah, I'm a Tiger.
Here's my gamble. Here's Busch's best bets. Just put money on Tiger to win the Masters right now, and don't ask why.
Boom. That's
happening.
That's a lit fam bet. If you guys listen to our last episode, we're going to be doing a Busch's best bet segment every time that it's applicable. So this weekend.
Yeah, this week there's really nothing besides going over last week.
To bet on, but when things come back, the next opportunity, we have a fam, a lit, and a lit fam are our three sections. So fam is kind of like, I'm going to throw money on it, whatever. Lit is like, I'm confident. Lit fam is essentially easy money. So
Tiger's Club Twirl over.
With his
from last week.
and the Omaha bet was just a fam. That was more or less just a fun bet. So
yeah.
But in general, Alex, if you listen to Alex's best bets, you made a lot of money. I know I did. I took some of what he provided us, the insight, and I got some coin in my bank account too. So
I think so. We're just gonna spitball this right while we're on the podcast. Next week, I think NBA might not be officially like back yet, or like have any plan yet. But next week, I'm gonna think about some futures for the NHL. So. Because there's going to be so many futures that are open back up pretty much now. So.
Yeah, and might not be relevant to the betting side of things, but it's a good point to mention that as these podcasts continue on, we're going to be touching on the live sports, but understanding that since we're still in that phase of no consistency with events, so we've been lucky to have two like major golf outings and in a row for podcast and the Last Dance, but we're going to be getting into this kind of dry period. So what Busch and I are going to be doing is maybe whether it's going in depth on a NFL conference and really diving into some teams that we like and don't like, or even more specific, our top 5 fantasy quarterbacks. Things like that. We're going to be
just opinionated kind of debating things.
Content, and it'll be a great opportunity for you guys that are following. I know our follower growth continues to grow. The subscriptions on our platforms continue to grow, and the star reviews. So we appreciate all of that. But as more and more of you guys continue to latch on to the Talking Sports A to Z train, feel free to ping us with a tweet like, hey guys, talk about your top 5 point guards in the NBA right now. Like any type of idea we're gonna flesh out, and if it's good enough and we're interested enough, we'll definitely throw it on the pod. So Talking Sports Talking Sports AZ on all social media platforms. I'm Drew Zlogar, Zlogar, and Busch. You're just Alex Busch, right?
Alex Busch, 93. Busch like the beer.
Alex Busch, 93, like the beer. He's always smashing beers, so it's par for the course.
Zillion beers, baby.
But yeah, loved what Kevin had to say on the interview today. NHL sprinkling back some we're coming back talks. It's good stuff, and I hope you guys enjoyed the what we had to talk about today.
Yeah, just the last thing, we'll get into this next week, but we got a giveaway coming with a sponsor that's a friend of mine, always up to something. Follow them on social. We're gonna do a giveaway starting next week. That'll be fun, to kind of collab with them. So, that's coming soon.
Making moves, people.
We're growing, baby, to the moon.
Whether you want to believe it yet or not, we're making moves. A sponsor agreement coming, merch coming potentially. Like we're making moves, and it's all thanks to you guys listening and giving us the confidence to continue doing this. So I know it's full steam ahead on my end. I think Busch, you can say the same, but we're going to be grinding at this and making sure that we're bringing you the best content possible on the airwaves. So we appreciate the support. We appreciate listening to episode 7 here. And until next week, continue on, man. This is a weird time, and we're all trying to get through it. And the little sports information that we have is helping us get through, and we hope that it is for you too. So we'll see you all next